Today, more than ever before, cybersecurity is a critical component of every industrial control system. And if you work with these systems, either as a user or a supplier, knowledge of cybersecurity is becoming an essential part of your professional life. So now is a great time to build up your expertise in this subject. But where should you start? For an increasing number of organizations, the IEC 62443 series of standards provides a realistic and achievable model to mitigate security threats. Here on YouTube, you will find many interesting videos covering the 62443 standards in extensive detail. These videos are highly informative, but they are not so accessible if you are a newcomer to the topic. So, in this video, I will present a high-level overview of the standards as seen from a manufacturer's perspective. This will provide you with a basic understanding of the topic, and you can dive more deeply into the complexity when required. IEC 62443 is designed to reduce the risk of deploying and operating an industrial automation control system, an IACS. The standards define the roles of organizations and the policies and processes which are applicable to each one. When approaching 62443 for the first time, it's helpful to understand the structure of these standards and how the hierarchy defines the responsibilities for maintaining resilient IACS cybersecurity. A good place to start the description is to clarify the roles of organizations which are directly affected by the standard. The asset owner is an individual or organization which is responsible for one or more IACSs. Typically, the asset owner is the end user. The system integrator builds IACSs for the asset owners by integrating hardware and software from multiple product manufacturers. The product manufacturer designs and creates the individual components that the system integrator uses to build the automation system. Within 62443, each of these groups have clearly defined obligations and responsibilities. So, what are the advantages of 62443 for each group? For the asset owners, a clear advantage is the ability to define a required security level with reference to a threat level without having to define the functionality which is required from each individual component. Of course, different areas or functions within a network have different security requirements, and the 62443 standard takes this into account. If a network already exists, the asset owner can use the standard as a benchmark to determine the current security level. For the system integrator, the standard provides an unambiguous statement of the asset owner's security requirements. It also offers confirmation that the IACS meets the required security level. For the product manufacturers, the standard offers a simple way to describe the security functionality of their products. This is far more understandable than a long list of features. It also offers an easy way for potential customers to compare products from different manufacturers. Now let's take a closer look at the 62443 series of standards. The standards are grouped into 4 categories: general, policies and procedures, system, and component. These are denoted by the suffixes -1 to -4. The general standards provide an overview of the 62443 security process and introduce concepts which are found throughout the series of standards. They form the foundation for the other categories. The policies and procedures standards provide guidance on creating and maintaining a secure system, including security policies and risk management. The system standards provide guidance on designing and implementing a secure IACS, including cybersecurity technologies and mitigating methods. The component standards describe the development lifecycle requirements and technical functionality levels for industrial network components. We've looked at the roles defined within the standard, and we've looked at the categories. So, how are these mapped? If you are an asset owner and you want to secure your network, 62443-2 will help you to set up cybersecurity policies. It will inform you what you can require of your system integrators and how those requirements can be measured. It defines policies which will allow you to confirm that your system integrator has supplied secure products and those products have been assimilated into a secure system based on your security policies, procedures, and risk assessment. System integrators focus on 62443-3. This category serves 2 purposes. It assists the system integrator to evaluate the asset owner's requirements and translate them into a system design. It also provides a method to determine that the components bought from the product manufacturer have been securely developed and support the functionality that is required by the asset owner. As a product manufacturer, 62443-4 is your main reference. It provides clearly defined objectives for the design and capability of your products. This ensures that the products you develop and manufacture will meet the requirements of the system integrator. To summarize, the requirements based on the asset owner's target security level flow down the chain from the asset owner via the system integrator to the product manufacturer. The solution, based on the product and system security capability, flows back up the chain to the asset owner. All standards within the 62443 series are important. But to complete this high-level picture, let's examine which standards are particularly relevant at each level. These are the standards that you are most likely to come across in your daily work. If you are an asset owner operating an industrial control system and you have currently not set up cybersecurity policies, Section 2-1 will guide you through the process. If you are at a point where you're looking to bring in IACS suppliers, look at Part 2-4 to ensure that those suppliers and integrators are supplying secure solutions to you and that those systems can be configured to meet your policies. If you are a system integrator developing and building an industrial control system, Section 3-2 provides guidance on the design and security of a zones and conduits network topology. Section 3-3 assists you to evaluate whether your IECS meets the requirements defined by the asset owner's cybersecurity policies. If you are a product manufacturer, Section 4-1 defines the processes you must follow to securely develop a product throughout its entire life cycle. Section 4-2 states the security functionality capability your product must support to be compliant with the 4 security levels. Whenever one thinks of the 62443 standard as it relates to products, security levels are the first aspect which springs to mind. Security levels reflect the level of security functionality provided by a component and are therefore used as a benchmark. So first we will define what the security levels are, and then we will examine how they are derived. IEC 62443-4-2 for products includes 4 security levels. A set of security functionality is defined for each level. This functionality is matched to the skills, resources, and motivation of an attacker. This allows products to be selected based on the perceived threat level from an adversary. SL0, which is typically not counted as a level, indicates 2 things. First, from a product manufacturer's perspective, that the product has no security functionality. Second, from an asset owner's perspective, that no security functionality is required for the product. SL1 indicates that a device is resistant to unintentional mistakes. As the threat is unintentional, it's assumed to come from your own employees. SL2 includes additional functionality designed to deter attackers who have low motivation and capability, typically a casual hacker. SL3 assumes that the attacker has knowledge of IECS systems, such as equipment and protocols, together with a malicious agenda. This would typically be an organized group of hackers, such as a hacktivist collective. SL4 indicates that a device can withstand an attack by a nation-state, together with all the resources that state may have. In reality, SL4 compliance is many years away, and SL3 is viewed as a medium-term objective. Security levels are a fundamental part of the 62443 standard, so it's important to understand how they are derived and what they are designed to achieve. Security levels are based on the concept of requirements. A requirement is a corrective process for a specific security weakness. There are 3 categories of requirements: foundational, system, and component. These categories map exactly to 3 of the levels defined in the standard. Foundational requirements represent the highest level. The 7 foundational requirements are the basic requirements for industrial automation security defined in the general level. They form the basis from which the other requirements are derived. System requirements define the security capability required of a complete system. Component requirements define the security capability offered by individual components. The 7 foundational requirements are the foundation for defining control system security capability levels. The numbering and naming conventions, including the acronym for each requirement, are uniform through each level of the standards. FR1 and FR2 both concern authentication. FR1 requires authentication for all users prior to allowing them access to the system or assets. Users are people, software processes, or devices. FR2 enforces the assigned privileges of an authenticated user to perform the requested action on the component and monitors the use of those privileges. FR3 ensures integrity by protecting against unauthorized manipulation or modification of data. FR4 ensures the confidentiality of information on communication channels and in data storage to protect against unauthorized disclosure. FR5 describes how to segment the control system via zones and conduits. FR6 governs the response to security violations by notifying the proper authorities, reporting the violation, and taking timely corrective action. FR7 ensures the availability of components by protecting against degradation or denial of service. Each foundational requirement contains a number of derived system and component requirements. Each system and component requirement covers a specific security function which is required to achieve the foundational requirement. This results in a hierarchy of requirements. Each requirement at each level has an individual number. The numbering is taken from the hierarchy. For example, the system and component requirements, which are applicable to Foundation Requirement 1, are also numbered starting at 1. Similarly, FR2 contains system and component requirement numbering from 2, and so on. This concept facilitates understanding of the relationship between the requirements at different levels. The security capability of a system is built upon the security capability of the components used to build the system. So for traceability, there is a direct correlation between the numbering of system and component requirements. Clearly, it's not possible for every requirement to exist at every level, so gaps in the numbering occur. Component requirements are categorized into 4 subgroups. These are software applications, embedded devices, host devices, and network devices. Requirements for specific device types exist within the 4 subgroups. A component requirement typically applies to all subgroups. Of course, there are requirements which are only applicable to a specific subgroup. In that case, the requirement is numbered with an appropriate prefix. Sometimes a requirement which fits fine with a lower security level needs to be made more stringent or specific when used for higher security levels. Additions to the requirement are known as requirement enhancements and are indicated by the suffix RE. Let's look at a real example of component level requirements. Foundational Requirement 1 covers identification and authentication. At a component level, there are multiple requirements. For example, CR 1.1, which governs the identification of people, and CR 1.2, which covers the identification of devices. For a network device to achieve SL1, all component requirements relevant to the device must achieve SL1. So in this case, basic authentication defined in CR 1.1 will suffice. As CR 1.2 is rated at SL2, the device does not need to comply with this requirement. If the device must be rated at SL2, then it must also comply with CR 1.2. To achieve SL3, the basic identification and authentication described in CR 1.1 is not sufficient. In this case, the device must support the functionality defined in the requirement enhancement CR 1.1 RE2. Finally, if the product to be rated is a wireless device, it must comply with the network-specific requirement numbered NDR 1.6 to cover access management for wireless networks. Let's summarize the basic information about security levels and how they are derived. An asset owner can require a specific security level for an individual foundational requirement or a complete system. A system integrator will require components which comply with a specific security level. Every requirement has a security level, and these are used in the security calculations for systems and devices. An individual product is typically rated for a single security level. This security level is the lowest security level of any of its component requirements. In other words, to be rated at a specific security level, all component requirements relevant to the device must be rated at that security level or higher. There will be cases where the system integrator needs to deploy a component, but this component cannot achieve the required security level. To fulfill the requirement, the component manufacturer may specify that their component can achieve the security level if it is used in conjunction with another device. This is known as a compensating control or countermeasure. In the example on the left, the wireless access point cannot meet the user authentication requirements. So this is handled by an external database. The drive has a vulnerable protocol stack, so a firewall is placed in front of it to filter traffic. When countermeasures are required, the appropriate countermeasure must be described in the original device's documentation. Security levels are divided into three categories: target, SLT, achieved, SLA, and capability, SLC. The SLT is defined by the asset owner and defines the level of security desired to ensure correct operation of the system. The SLT is usually determined as the result of a risk assessment, which will consider probability and consequences of a security breach. The SLA is a measurement of the actual system security level. As the sophistication of attack methods increases over time, the SLA decreases. Consequently, the SLA must be reviewed on a regular basis. Ideally, the SLA should be greater than the SLT. SLC is usually applied to components and indicates the security level the component can provide without countermeasures when it is properly configured. The SLC, together with countermeasures, contribute to the SLA. When considering the security of a network device, many people focus on the security level it provides. It's an easy concept to understand. It's also tempting to compare the value of two devices solely according to what security functionality is offered. But there is more to device security than how many functions are supported. A secure development lifecycle can greatly increase the overall security effectiveness of a device. A product which offers security functionality is not necessarily a secure product. The IEC 62443-4-1 standard, known as Secure Development Lifecycle, is the foundation on which device security is built. It defines security processes from a product's conception stage through development and maintenance, right through until the end of its lifetime. By adhering to the guidelines, product manufacturers protect their products against unintentional vulnerabilities, such as supply chain risks, and intentional malicious interference from professional hackers. As a consequence, system integrators can trust the product knowing it has been subject to the strictest security controls and intensive security testing during development. Asset owners can rest assured that they will promptly receive security patches for any vulnerabilities discovered in the product. There are 8 major secure development lifecycle topics or practices. Each of these contains multiple subtopics which provide finer definition of the related requirements. I will briefly explain each practice as it is documented in the standard. It's imperative that you understand how these practices are critical to the security of your networks. Security management governs the planning, documentation, and execution of activities throughout the product's lifetime. Specification of security requirements entails documenting the capabilities of a product, including authentication, authorization, encryption, auditing, and other functionality relative to the context in which the product is intended to be used. Secure by Design covers all stages of a product's design, from concept to design details, and every level from architecture to individual components. The practice focuses on the protection of internal and external product interfaces. Secure implementation includes identifying requirements not implemented and identifying failure to adhere to coding standards. It specifies the use of static code analysis to find coding errors and examination of methods to exploit the implementation. Security verification and validation testing documents the testing required to ensure that security requirements have been met. The objective is to ensure that the product remains secure when it's used in its intended context. Management of security-related issues is a process for receiving, verifying, tracking, and notification of security-related issues. Procedures are required for problems which are reported either internally within the product manufacturer or externally by third parties such as system integrators or asset owners. Security update management ensures that security updates fix the intended security vulnerabilities, do not affect operation of the device, and are delivered to users in a timely fashion. This includes updates created by the product manufacturer or provided by a third-party supplier. Security guidelines define the deployment of products in a defense in-depth environment. The guidelines also cover device security hardening, secure operation, security incident reporting, and secure device disposal. Secure product development is an ongoing process. The concept of maturity is used to indicate the stage a product manufacturer is at in this process. The maturity model provides a method which describes the level to which a manufacturer has put the secure development lifecycle requirements into practice. The levels are known as maturity levels. A manufacturer's compliance to each topic and subtopic is assessed and rated based on a maturity level. A manufacturer's overall maturity level is established by its level of compliance to each topic and subtopic. Maturity level 1 indicates no compliance. Maturity level 2 indicates that a manufacturer has compliance procedures, but not all of them are being used during a specific product development. However, the manufacturer's employees are trained and have expertise in the processes. This is typically a transition phase when the procedures have not yet been fully put into place. Maturity level 3 indicates that a manufacturer has developed and documented at least one product in accordance with the secure development processes. Maturity level 4, the highest level, indicates that the manufacturer has implemented processes of documented self-regulation and continuous improvement. Maturity levels provide a yardstick both to measure a product manufacturer and enable a product manufacturer to measure itself. Maturity levels inform an asset owner or system integrator to what degree a product manufacturer has implemented the secure development lifecycle practices. Maturity levels also provide a product manufacturer with a benchmark regarding its own implementation of the defined processes. By implementing all 8 secure development lifecycle practices to maturity level 2 or above, a product manufacturer can claim that its development department operates in accordance with 62443-4-1. If a product manufacturer follows every process defined in 4-1 during the development of a specific product, that product has been developed according to maturity level 3 or higher. Maturity level 3 forms the foundation of the functionality-focused 4-2 standard. A product can only claim compliance to 4-2 if it's rated to 4-1 maturity level 3. Whether you are buying a complete system or some individual components, you cannot leave security to chance. Certification means that a trusted independent third party will attest that the system or component you own complies with the requirements defined in 62443-3-3 and 62443-4-2 respectively. Standards organizations create standards. They do not substantiate compliance with these standards. Certification of systems or components is not defined within the 62443 standard. Nevertheless, there is clearly a demand for certification. Many companies do not have the expertise for in-depth technical investigation. Many others require evidence of compliance to be attested by a third party. As a result, there are several highly reputable certification agencies who have established IEC 62443 certification schemes. Each has defined its own scheme based on the IEC standards and procedures. Although the certifications from each certification agency are approximately equivalent, each organization defines its own test methods, audit policies, and documentation policies. In some cases, a certification may include requirements outside the scope of the 62443 standards if the certification agency considers that the additions will contribute to the security of the final system. An example of these additions could be supplementary test requirements. A system integrator or asset owner who needs certified products has two options: buy products with independent certification or buy products certified by the product manufacturer. Independent certification has many advantages for the purchaser. Two advantages stand out. First, the compliance is assured by a trusted third party. The compliance will also be comprehensive in that it will cover all functionality in the standard. Secondly, certification agencies will not certify devices unless they've been developed in accordance with the Secure Development Lifecycle Standard. The disadvantage is that independently certified products may be more expensive, which reflects the additional cost and effort of adhering to the standards. Products which rely on a manufacturer's self-declaration tend to be lower cost because they are not subject to the development overheads of compliance. On the minus side, these products often do not actually comply with the 4-2 standard. They support some functionality which is defined in the standard and make reference to the standard using qualifiers to express a degree of conformity. Most importantly, these products may not have been developed in a secure environment using recommended security processes. There will never be a universal security standard which encompasses the requirements of all nations and the stipulations of every industry. But an initial reference point benefits product manufacturers, system integrators, and asset owners alike. IEC 62443 is the front runner to fill this position. Compliance to this set of standards is now being demanded across industries from factory and process automation, utilities, oil and gas, to transportation, and the list increases every day. At first glance, the 62443 standards seem daunting, especially to people who are less familiar with security concepts. Of course, the best way to learn about the standards is to read them, but they consist of many hundreds of pages, very precisely written. Every topic is related to other topics. In fact, this is the elegance of the standards. But it's difficult to know where to begin. Hopefully, this video has given you a starting point. You'll soon find that the pieces of the puzzle start falling into place. The standards are comprehensive and demanding, This is especially true of the 4-1 Secure Development Lifecycle Standard, which adds a necessary but large overhead to the development process. So there will always be organizations which opt for the shortcut by cherry-picking the parts of the standard which have the greatest marketing value. Bear in mind that there is no 62443 light. The value of the standards lies in complete compliance. Whether you are an asset owner, a system integrator, or a product manufacturer, sooner or later your professional path will cross with IEC 62443. Even if you do not have an immediate requirement, take time to learn more about the standards. There are many white papers and informative videos to assist you. Your research will pay dividends as your organization faces the security challenges of today's industrial automation world.